And what do you think made that like that Western genre film and TV like such a special part of our culture like at that point in time? Like movies and television have always been some of our country's biggest exports, but to me, the Western kind of holds a special place in that group, no?
The Westerns, all of them, it wasn't shoved up your nose, but there was a morality that was displayed in every episode of every show. The bad guy got punished, the good guy was praised. Somehow, kids learned that you could shoot without killing. It an entirely different morality existed, and I wish that we would go back to it a little bit, because the games and everything have taken over our young kids' lives instead of uh, pieces that were great fun to watch. The whole family could watch. The entertainment was there, and still there were subliminal lessons learned. I kind of miss that a little bit.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
miss it a
true.
lot. Never mind a little bit.
No, it's very, very true. Being a bit of a sci-fi fan and initially a lawyer by trade, I'm personally interested in your work on the Twilight Zone and Perry Mason. How did those jobs come about? Do you have any interesting stories to share about, uh, any of your fellow actors or time on those sets?
I love doing Perry Mason because I got to play so many different roles. And why? Because the producer of the show was a beautiful actress who used her brains and her talent and her beauty and became producer of this wonderful series. And Gail Patrick was lovely to look at. And when I finally got to see all of those movies, I thought, wow. And she liked talent. You had to be gifted enough when you worked in television to work very fast. The movies were much slower. You had more time to rehearse a scene and sort of plan things. In television, a lot of it was very spontaneous, and you had to know your stuff. And producers only hired people that could bring their gift to work and not fumble lines and not be late and would come in knowing their material. And boy, she hired a lot of people over and over again. I was a lucky one. I got to do a lot of shows and a lot of very different characters. And wow, working with someone like Barbara Hale and our wonderful leading man who had the wildest sense of humor made it fun. And that whole company had a great sense of humor, which made heavy work, long work hours, so much better and easier to bear. But our producer, Gail Patrick, set the tone. I loved her and hope God is taking good care of her.
We were talking earlier about Debbie, and I wanted to ask, I mean, during the course of your friendship, I presume that you must have probably also had some sort of friendship or relationship with her daughter, Carrie. Um, so Carrie gets booked as Princess Leia all these years later, right? Um, what was it like as a friend to Debbie watching your friend's daughter like blossom into, I mean, Princess Leia?
Debbie had problems with Carrie. I'm not telling tales out of school. This
Mhm.
is known. From the time she started going into her teens. And Debbie was smart enough to realize that her daughter did have a gift. She was talented. She put her into Irene with her when she went to New York and was the belle of Broadway in Irene. Her daughter was in that. Of course, there was continuous problem. And there were times, there was a long period where they didn't even speak. after Broadway. And it was very difficult for Debbie. It broke my heart to see how she was suffering through, well, my daughter is fine. She had the marriages, she had different affairs. They were quite serious. I'm talking about Carrie, of course.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Carrie found her métier, which was to get off the screen and get behind it and write. And she was a proficient and marvelous writer and a marvelous performer of her own material. And they got to talking again. Of course, Carrie had a tremendous problem with drugs and drinking and drinking and drugs. And it looked like things would get better, and things didn't always get better. And Debbie tried very, very hard, but she was very proud of what she was able to do. When speaking of Debbie, talking about Carrie, she was always very proud of her. And it's just heartbreaking to me that she had to live through that experience of her daughter dying before her. That shouldn't have happened. And yet it did, just a couple of days. And it was a very, very difficult period for her. And she pulled herself together. She pulled the family in, what there was, and the people that were the caregivers, and saying, we all have to pull ourselves together to do this for Billie, Carrie's daughter, that beautiful Billie. And that evening, after she pulled herself together and pulled the family together, she died. So all I can do is say, they're together now. We think of them, the Thalians have a beautiful pin that we sell that is a gorgeous caricature of Debbie and her singing in the rain, raincoat, slicker, and hat, and umbrella, and with her arm around Princess Leia, and Princess Leia with her arm around, and it's from the back. And if anybody wants it, it's available. Just call us or write us at thethalians.org, and it's available.